Hey everybody, welcome to video journal number 2, where I basically just chronicle all my little adventures of my first comic that I'm making. And today is Tuesday, September 27th. And what I got in front of me is a couple concepts that I've been doing. And some of you guys, I'll post on Twitter every now and then, usually at night, that I'm doing a stream while I'm working on concepts. So what I decided to do is just print them out and flip through them for you guys. Unfortunately, I only have a black and white printer. I don't have color, which doesn't really matter. But okay, so I also, before I get into this, if you go to jonathanrector.com and click on blog, I've also did a little teaser update as well. And what it was just talking about what I want to accomplish through this, and at the same time it's going to kind of mirror those blog posts as well to go with the videos, kind of like a tie-in. I just keep it all in one nice package. That way when I do updates, I don't always have to do a video, you know. I can also just show high-res scans and high-res, you know, right off my computer screen and stuff like that. So what I wanted to talk about this week was where I'm going, how it's going, and some fun things I'm finding out. So I knew right away what I wanted to do was some sort of Canadian-based superhero team. I don't want to rip off the Power Rangers too much. There's some general ideas that Power Rangers do that I loved as a kid that I really want to do. And I've talked about it for quite some time, where I don't want it to be a very heavy story. I want it to get across the moral of the story and some fun action and keep people flipping through the book. So the first theme that I'm going to come up with for the first story is never giving up. You know, any cartoon that you used to watch as a kid, you know, they'd have that little moral of the story. And the first one I want to do is don't give up. You know, even if you got those challenges up against you, you know, your friends are there to back you up, and they're there to boost you up. Not give up. Keep going through it. And naturally, there's going to be a bad guy that they'll have to fight, that they'll have to prove that to. You know, nothing too overly complicated. Just keep it sweet, keep it simple, and make it cool. To me anyway, as long as I'm having fun. So, what I was deciding to do, I just want to see before I jumped into it. Yeah, okay, so that was the premise that I had going into it. And I've worked out some characters that I want in there. There's going to be 4 main characters in the story. I'm still debating whether or not to make them kids or teenagers, that when they transform, you know, they get the superpowers and they get these really, you know, what I'm trying to make cool costumes. And the big problem I'm having with doing kids is kids are very, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but they are, you know. If you have a teenager, you could throw in a little, you know, there's a little bit of more emotional range that a teenager can understand and comprehend, which makes for some better conflicts. But I do really like the idea of kids transforming into superheroes, you know, like 6-foot, 5-foot superheroes, even though they're kids. But we'll see what happens. I honestly think I'll end up going with the teenager route. But you never know. And I think I already talked a little bit about it. I wanted to make it Canadian-based. I don't think there's enough Canadian superheroes or Canadian books out there. And I figured, what the heck? Not necessarily, you know, going against evil igloos and, you know, igloos that turn into monsters and big maple leaf monsters and, you know, back bacon and maple syrup monsters. You know, I don't want to cliche it like that, but just some of the backdrops will probably be Canadian, you know, Toronto, Ottawa, Alberta, the Maritimes, all that good stuff. And just to theme it like that. So before I'm still developing that. I don't want to drift too much into that. But so I had no idea. I knew that I wanted to do Canadians, but I didn't know like a theme to go for. At first I was kind of tossing around with like a maple leaf, and then, you know, what other cool things are there in Canada? There's a blue jay, then there's polar bears, there's mounties, you know, and some of the stuff just wasn't sounding fun, so I kind of let it slide for a bit. And I just opened up Photoshop. I did quick design work. So let me quickly show you. This is how I usually do my concepts. If you guys haven't been watching or anything like that, this is just a very quick gesture I did in Photoshop. And what I do is that's the base for the concepts, and then I would just paint over top with some designs and some color. The way that these look is not how the book's going to be actually done. All this is give me a visual blueprint, so that once I do grab a piece of paper and I literally sketch out the design, that's where it gets final. This isn't even worrying about how the style of the book or how it's going to look. This is just, again, to give me a mental blueprint of where I'm thinking and what's going on and stuff like that. So I didn't know exactly what I was going for, so I just started tossing down things. And this was the first one that I did, this guy here. And I liked a lot of the things I was getting right away, like this Iron Man-esque center. I thought that was pretty cool. He had a slick look. The only thing I don't really like too much is this area right here, especially for a guy. It seems like it focuses too much on the crotch, and this is an all ages book, and mentally you probably wouldn't even notice it, but I'd rather get away from something like that. And I have no intentions of it being like that. This is the second one. I just pushed a little bit further. I had no idea where to go, so I gave him giant guns, as you can see there, and more techno babble going on in there, more sinew-esque type look, Then I just did another one, and I just kept pushing them a little bit further. This guy, he ended up looking a little too simple, a little too I don't know, not superhero enough to me. And then this guy, I was just messing around with shapes of helmets and stuff, and he started looking much more like a villain. And then I talked to my brother, and I was having such a hard time coming up with an idea, and eventually he told me, and I totally forgot about it, but in Canada, all the provinces, they have little, things that they represent. So there's the provincial flower that each of them have, and I was like, flowers wouldn't be bad. Flowers sounds pretty cool. Flowers could sound a little, girly. Not that that's a bad thing, but, superheroes, I want something a little bit more, And animals, I didn't even know there's animals. So I just did some research on the net, and apparently the provinces have birds as well. So I'm going with birds. And this was the first design getting more focus on what we're doing. And this one was a goose. And or the Canadian goose. If you go to my blog again, jonathanrector.com, click on blog, I have a little write-up of the 4 main characters, the 4 birds I chose. There's the Canada goose, which is more likely going to be the leader. There's the blue jay, because he's most popular, but I tried to go northwest, east, and south to get the flavor for the birds. The other one is a Geyer falcon, I believe it's called, and the 4th one is a great horned owl, and it gives me some range. The only thing is I got to figure out a way to push color into it. But this was the initial design right here of the guy, and I liked where it was going. Again, this area is still getting a little iffy for me. I'd probably open it up here just so your eye doesn't focus right on that white. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit so you can see the mask is what's really giving me a lot of problems, and giving a little energy coming out of there. And then this is a second design just to push it. Let me just zoom in there again. The helmet, I was giving it more of like a duck bill, and it started to look a little goofy to me. I do like this look, but it might be too Power Ranger-y. So again, I might just get away from doing the themed helmets, maybe do a themed costume instead. I might be able to get something out of it, because I'm really struggling right now on that. I was talking to my friend Jamie, and she even noticed, and after a while you could see it. This looks more like an officer's outfit, kind of like with these folded shoulder pads. A little hard to see here. And then this was a quick one I did last night. It was just a blue jay costume. And this is getting a little bit closer to... I still have a lot of the features that I did in the older ones, but it's getting a little bit more closer to like a uniformed look for a superhero, And anyway, so that's where I'm at right now, and I just wanted to share you guys some of the concepts that I'm working on. And I'll be doing tons more of this stuff too once it starts, solidifying where we're going. And right now, all I'm really worrying about is I have an idea of the story. I'm going to keep pushing these designs. Today I'll probably start doing some villain sketches just to help beef up the story a little bit more. And then what I plan on doing is focusing on a tight story, getting the story from start, middle, end, and then going back and really focusing on getting a look for these guys, because no matter what you do, any story you make, your characters sell it, and as many people will say, never judge a book by its cover. I believe that 100%, but at the same time, the cover is the first thing anybody sees anyway. So if it doesn't look good, people probably won't notice it, So you got to make those characters, you got to make them pop, you got to make them sing, you got to make them look unique and cool, and enough for at least somebody to pick it up. But anyway, we'll get more into that next week or whenever the next video comes out. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys get a little something out of this, because I'm having a blast doing it. And thanks again, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.